She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and thank you so much for being here with me on this fine Thursday evening as we dive into another installment of the Night Terrors. And if you're not familiar with it, the Night Terrors are a shorter version of the Paranormal Portal, just about an hour. And we cover a topic or so throughout the course of the night. And we got a few things we're going to cover tonight. We're going to cover some just normal strangeness like we always do. But we're also going to have, at the end of the show, we're going to do the Trailcam Terrors. I got a Trailcam shot that I think is pretty compelling. I think it's could possibly be the real thing, but I'll let you guys be the judge. We'll get into that on the tail end of the show. And also, we got a Germer Files coming up tonight. And special thank you to Wes and Sasquatch Chronicles for making those available to us. I love showcasing them on the show because I know he's working hard and it's great entertainment. And hell, it makes my job easier. So what's not to love? But anyway, we got a lot to get to. So throughout the course of the night, if you want to call in, when we're not during the Germer Files, please, but at any other time, 720-923-0500. It's 720-923-0500. Those are the numbers for fun. And call in. Talk to me. I'll be here. I do my best to answer and to engage. And hopefully you guys will leave here plenty entertained. If I'm doing my job, that'll be the experience you should have. If I'm not doing my job, you'll leave here eventually because the stream will end. But hopefully it's with a good feeling. I hope you leave here with a good impression of the show if you're new, and a continuing good impression if you're not new. Or just that same bucket of hate that you came in with for those haters that are out there. They manage to come by every show just long enough to throw a couple thumbs down and then leave. So I know that you're doing something right when somebody goes out of their way to try to pee on your gravesite. It's like whatever. If they're wasting their time to do it, you must be getting under their skin. And I think that's a good thing. But anyway, at any rate, this is our show. So let's see. Anything else that I'm missing, that I'm forgetting? No, it's just me. You're going to have to just put up with me. I don't have any company tonight, but that's okay because I'm just good with this as well. Sometimes it's just nice to have those intimate get-togethers where it's just you and me and a whole lot of the paranormal. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. I hope you're ready because it's time for bed. Well, thank you. Thank you, Daryl. I appreciate that. Daryl says, this show is always good. That's really sweet. Thank you very much. And hello, Richard. Good to see you. Great to see all the faces, the new faces, the familiar faces, all you guys. Sugar Britches, Wen Wilson is here. Richard Elmore, Rachel gets it right. Sugar Britches again. Let me just look and see who is here. Karen Alberding is here. Good to see you, Karen. Android Purity, Gemini Moon is here. Herman Vera, Jocelyn Richardson. The Fourth Color is here. And Portal Mom's here. Good to see you, Portal Mom. Hope you're feeling better. Love you. And hope your eye's doing good. And let me just look through the participants. I was just going through the chat line by line there. But let's just see. There's lots of them. Aussie Tiger's here. Gabe is here. Good to see you, Gabe. Kirsten, Leah. Good to see you, Kirsten. It's great to see a smiling face. Long Island Bigfoot. Great to see you. Thanks for coming in. Spirit Stalker 151 is here. And I think that's it. So if you're not chatting, I can't tell that you're here because I only get those people that are chatting come up as participants. So that's how that works. So anyway, I'll keep an eye on that. If anybody comes in and says I'm here, then I'll do my best to give you a shout out if you're late. But let's continue. Let us continue. Okay, so first off, I guess we're gonna visit an article that we've been visiting. Oh my God, where did that go? We're gonna visit an article that I've got to find first, and then we'll read it. We were on number 10 of the article last night, but I've got to launch it now because I don't know what happened last night. My computer decided to reboot on its own, which always irritates the hell out of me, but it always resets everything. So I just got to pull up all my hot sheets all over again and find out where the hell I am, because I don't always know. Let's see. Nope. Yep. Nope. Not that one. Maybe it was this one. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. We're on number 9, actually, I guess. Oh no, we read this one. 10. Yep. We read that one. So we're on 11. Okay, good. All right. I've got it all sorted now, folks. It takes me a while. But I wasn't anticipating my computer shutting down, and I didn't even think about that, about making sure it was back up and we're good to go. So we're going to visit an article from justforspooks.com. We started last night. Don and I started going through it, and we made it through the first 10. There are first 11 rather. There are 20 of them in this article, and so we're going to get to that now. And we'll start out with number 12 on this list, and this is I worked. Let's talk about it. It's coincidence defy everything. So these are coincidences that people had happen. Well, they're calling them coincidence. I don't know if they all qualify as coincidence. I think some of them are outright just paranormal experiences, but sometimes people frame them in their own vernacular, and that's fine. I worked with a girl, Jay, over the summer who told me once that every time someone she knew became pregnant, someone else she knew, who, however vaguely, would die. She also had almost prophetic dreams and knew when someone was pregnant before they ever told her. Well, one day, another coworker comes in and says she doesn't feel well and says, "You're pregnant." And Jay says, "You're pregnant," and then gets really upset because that meant someone would likely pass away soon. Maybe the next day, an older coworker of ours had a stroke, and we all really thought she wasn't going to make it. And I assumed this was the person passing away because of the pregnancy, if that was actually true, and didn't really think about Jay's strange psychic ability any further. A week later, when coming in from her lunch break, Jay said to me in a really funny way, "I'm so sorry." A few minutes after, I get a call saying that my grandfather was minutes from passing away. The older woman lived, by the way, and to this day, I'm still unsure of whether or not this was some weird coincidence or if Jay knew all along. And that was by ASDFGHJKL Haley. Okay. That is really creepy. Some people do just have an insight. It can kind of come out of left field, though, for many of us who just aren't used to people just pulling those things from the ethers. But it is, I believe it's a very real phenomenon. I think there are many, many people, and I think, honestly, that we all have a gift of sorts. I hate that term because it sounds like, well, you're gifted. Well, no, you're not. I mean, you haven't. It's like, I guess, Maybe it is a gift in that our sight is a gift, our hearing is a gift, our sense of smell and touch are gifts because we can perceive the world around us. But I don't think this is anything different from any of those other senses. It's just some people are just tuned in. They just are gifted with, they are just fortunate to have it turned on by default. I do think that people can develop those sensitivities over time. And sometimes just by exposure to the paranormal, some people would get cued into it just because they're around that energy all the time. They get cued into the more esoteric, maybe more subtle energies of the world around us, and they start developing those things. So maybe, but anyway, I really don't like the whole gifted thing. I don't think it's not a contest, and it's not some people got it and some people don't. I think we all got it. But anyway, that's my own feelings on the subject. So I got the mic and you get to hear them. So number 13. Here's one that my mom told me a while back. Mom and her family were gathered around her uncle at his home, who had been terminally ill with cancer and wanted to die in his own home. Anyway, being Catholic, he wanted to receive his last rites. His breathing pattern was extremely odd until a priest arrived and gave him his rites. Totally relaxed death, and it was only 15 seconds after the priest arrived that he died. But here's the weird part. After roughly 30 seconds of being out of it, he came back. He turned to his wife and muttered very softly, "I can't go yet. It's too busy." And then slipped into a state of unconsciousness and died probably 2 hours later. Once again, a very relaxed death. Next day, we turned on the news, and last night, at seriously 15 minutes after his first death, was the detonation of the historic Bali bombings that killed many people. I've never really been sure on religion or afterlife, but this experience of Mom's has always made me think. That was by Fleety. That is pretty wild. You wouldn't think there'd be traffic jams, but maybe there is. I don't know. Maybe they only got a few of these, entities that work on transitions, and they were all booked. I don't know. For lack of a better way to put it, I don't know what to say. Number 14. Let me tell you about my guardian angel. He wears a long tan jacket with long grayish white hair and a long beard. A large floppy hat perches on his head. Back when my parents lived in Harvard Square, they'd see him often. I was not born at the time. Never said anything. He was just a square regular like them. Then they had me and stopped going to Harvard Square as much. We had moved to Roslindale. Okay, no idea if I'm spelling that right. Boston regulars help me. But whenever we went, we'd see him there, walking, standing, passing by. Fast forward 4 years, I'm now 4.5 years of age, and we moved from the city to the fine Pioneer Valley. One day we go into Greenfield when all of a sudden, walking down the sidewalk towards us, is this man, looking exactly the same, though it had been 2 years since anyone had been to Harvard Square. Then every time we're in Greenfield, there he is, walking past us. Every time looking me square in the eye like I'm being studied. About a year ago, I stopped seeing him. No idea why, but he was just gone. The freakier part, this October on the 13th to be exact, it was my birthday, and I went with some friends to see Looper in Greenfield. We get out of the movie discussing what it would be like to meet our Loops when he walks by. None of my friends had even ever seen nor heard of him before, but all of them simultaneously turn to me and say, "That's you. That's absolutely you in 50 years." We saw him 4 more times in the next 2 hours, and I swear to God he was about to make contact. He has the nicest eyes, though, peaceful and content. And that's written by the Mad Hatter 13. Wow. Is that possible that we could bump into a future version of ourselves? Yeah, I suppose. I mean, of all the weirdness we discuss on the show, that certainly wouldn't be the weirdest. But it is peculiar. That would require some kind of time travel then in the future at some point. Is that possible? Well, maybe it is. Hard to say. Brent, the articles aren't on the screen. Oh, you're right. What in the hell is? That's a good point. Thank you, Rachel. It should be on the screen, but I see my My display capture is all screwed up. Let's see if we can fix this. This is not what I want. Let me do this. There we go. Let's go to the... Which one is that? Display capture. Properties. I got to fix it, folks. Let's move this out of the way. Is it this one? Nope. That's an infinity loop. That's a look into the infinity of my screen. There. Nope. That's the other one. Is it? Which one is it? This one. There it is. All right. So I think I got it now. I don't know why that happened. But again, my computer rebooted. So obviously that was a little bit of leftover fun from my updates that must have happened last night. So my apologies. But we got it. Don's fault. Poor Don. He's not even here. Anyway, now you can read with me. Let's read together. Just consider it practice. I think that's a great story, though. Very cool. Number 15. Well, this happens to a friend of my dad's, but it is definitely a weird coincidental experience. It all started about 10 years ago when Joe, we'll call him that, my father's friend, was at a local gas station and saw a very unique lighter with a skull on it. Well, he decided to buy it to smoke, etc. A few years later, Joe was out on Lake Michigan during the winter snowmobiling, and for some reason, he brought his lighter with him. After a long day on the lake, he realized his lighter must have fallen out of his pants and knew there was no way to find it out on the ice. The next year, Joe was with his family down in Florida, eating at a restaurant. As he's eating there, he hears the sound of a lighter makes go off, and right then and there knew it was his lighter. The reasons was that this was a unique lighter. It had a very defined sound to it. When Joe, using it for so long, must have known that lighter was his. Joe sits there and thinks for a bit and hears it again, and that's when he got up and decided to look around the restaurant. As he's looking around, he sees another family and a man about 30 to 40 holding the lighter with a skull on it, just like Joe's. Obviously, Joe asks him how he got it, and the man says he was out walking in the shallow water of Lake Michigan by his cabin and found it somewhat buried in the sand. What are the odds of that? I mean, you're out on the water, lose a lighter. Maybe it came off on the beach. I mean, maybe it was just where he lost it. It came out of his pocket or whatever, but still. What are the odds you would run into it after that point? Astronomical. They've got to be astronomical odds. But there again, that's the really cool serendipities and synchronicities that go on that really make you go, what the hell is going on? There's something bigger going on here, folks. That's all I got to say. That was by CMVIX. I imagine that's Roman numerals for something. IX is 9. MC is 100. M, or C 500. No, I don't know what that. I don't know my Roman numerals that well. I always have to look at a chart when I go up too high on my ghostly encounters. But anyway, that's who wrote it. Number 16. When I was a kid, maybe around 9 or 10, my friends and I would always hang out in the woods behind our bus stop. There were 4 of us that would always go back there, but my friend Alex and I would go back there the most often. There wasn't really anything inherently weird or creepy about the woods, but I remember feeling very calm back there. Despite generally having attention and anxiety problems, I had a dream one night that me and Alex, but neither of the other two, were hanging out in the woods, and an old woman came up to us to tell us that we shouldn't go back there anymore and that the woods were a private property. And then she turns around and walks up into the sky. The next morning, I was telling Alex about the dream, and I get to the part with the old lady, and I say, and she told us not to go back into the woods behind the bus stop anymore. And Alex finishes the sentence, because it's private property, and then she floated away. Turns out Alex had been having the same dream every now and then for a few months at that point. He never told me about it. We compared a few other details about the dream, and what Alex said sounded familiar, like it was foggy, and it was a green painted iron gate that doesn't really exist. But these parts I'm willing to chalk up to the power of suggestions. That was by NC State Go Pack Jack. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty powerful if you're sharing a dream with the same message. You might want to pay attention to that. Number 17, this happened this morning, and I cannot get it out of my head. My grandmother just passed away at the end of July, and my grandfather had not been in the best condition since. So last night I was having a dream, and it was about my grandparents. I rarely dream about them. They were sitting in this room on a bed, very neat, very clean, and they were joking around and talking with me about random things. And I was sitting at the foot of my grandfather's side, and he pulled out a doll and started doing ventriloquism, which makes no sense to me at all. But we just carry on a happy conversation, and I woke up to the phone ringing. It was my mom. My grandpa had just passed away in his sleep. Tomorrow would have been their 62nd wedding anniversary. That's by Patrice Nicole too. Wow, that's really beautiful. I guess, those kind of things are awesome, I think. And having experienced that, I can't tell you how valuable that was to me in the mourning process. Just to have that moment. And forgive me if you're not familiar with the story, but I've shared it so many times on the show, I don't want to be redundantly bringing it up every time. But I had an experience like that with my dad, who passed away when I was out here and he was back in Minnesota. So it was a very neat experience and very cathartic. So number 18, I was taking some pictures at the graveyard, and it was for a class. So my friends were there modeling for me. And anyways, I asked one of my friends to try to look like she is crying while I adjust my camera. When I go to take her picture, I see she is doing a great job. She is sobbing up and crying, and I take a couple of pictures before realizing that she's looking at this big family grave with the exact names and last names of her relatives. There was her dad's name, mom, sister, and brother, exact name with exact last name. Her family lives on another state, and then they are alive. So that was spooky, but later on, we are all in my car, and we're listening to some music one of us had on the USB, and we were listening to a song for like the third time when the sound goes off, and a horrible voice says, "Get back from where you came from." And the song continues where it left off. We were so creeped out, we had to stop and catch our breath. To this day, I still don't know what it was. Maybe interference from another radio. No idea, but it was creepy. That is weird. Kydra Draka is who submitted that story. That is really weird. I don't know. There's always mind games in the paranormal to some degree. Number 19, my grandfather passed away in 2002. He'd been sick for years. At the time, my little brother was only 4 years old. My grandfather's passing occurred after my little brother was already sleeping. The next morning, before being told anything, my little brother said, "I had a dream about Pop Pop last night. He told me he was tired of not feeling good and that he loved me." Oh, that's sweet. That's by UM Terp 2010. And the last one on the list, my grandmother died 10 years ago. After she died, my grandfather started saying he was having dreams about her in a dark place. She was beckoning him to come to her. 2 months later, he died in his sleep. I guess he decided to go to her. That was by Apathetic Hamster. Apathetic Hamster. So, very interesting. Very cool list, very cool stories. I think those are really powerful. Very, very powerful. You know what else is powerful? You want to know what else is powerful? I'll tell you what else is powerful. It's the Germer Files.
But I moved about 20 miles away became a deputy sheriff in a far eastern Tennessee county up in the mountains. Very rural area. Cows outnumber people 5-1 up there. And it's a pretty quiet place. We normally have 1 or 2 deputies on at a time, sometimes only one, sometimes none in the middle of the night. So that gives you an idea of this is a very rural area, and a lot of the county has national forest, or it borders the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. At that time, we had about 2 or 3 years of drought-like weather. Very dry. We'd had a lot of small fires. We'd had maybe one big fire the summer before. This was more in the fall than in the spring, and we were hoping to get some rain, but it had been a very long, dry, hot summer. So the Forest Service had started a fire watch. And nowadays, I think they have more sensors and cameras and things like that. But at the time, they had fire towers, and park rangers and other volunteers would go stay up in these towers for 8 to 12 hours at a time, and they had a reporting protocol. They had radios, they had binoculars, and all of this stuff. So just to help out as a deputy sheriff, what I was doing to save these guys some miles, because the fire tower in our county was, again, 30 to 45 minutes off the beaten path. And these guys would have to drive their vehicle up and just leave them in the woods and walk up. So I discovered that one of these rangers lived near me. His name was Dobbs. And so we struck up a friendship, and I agreed, since I was on duty and it was county gas, that I would pull around, pick him up, and I would drive him up to the foot of the trail. And it was a gravel turnaround area at the end of a Forestry Service road, and drop him off, and he would walk up the trail for about probably 30 minutes before he got to his fire tower. And then myself or someone else would pick up the off-going ranger, and so we were helping him out. And I struck up a friendship with this guy. He was a good guy. He liked to fish and hunt. And he packed a .44 Magnum revolver on his hip, so we talked about that. And he had put together a little bag, a little kit, and he had coffee and things like that in his kit. And he had a radio, and he had different things, binoculars, and he showed me his kit. He called it his fire watch kit. And he had a big walking stick. And I would drive him up there. And on this particular day, I was actually supposed to pick him up in the afternoon. Someone else had taken him up there. So I had the relief ranger in my car, and I drove up there and dropped him off. And I didn't know this guy. I can't even remember his name right now, but he had just been pulled in from a different district to help out with the fire watch in this area. So he pops out of the car, says, "All right, good to meet you." "Yeah, good to meet you." And off he goes. He goes on up the trail. And the trail is, again, pretty steep going uphill. So I turned the car around, and I sat there, and I waited. And I had brought a thermos of coffee for the guy and everything. He's my new friend. And I figured about 15 minutes, he ought to be meeting with the other ranger, 5 minutes or so to exchange any pass-ons or anything, and then my friend would come walking out. And he always tried to get out before dark. And at this time of year, dark was coming about 6:30 at night. So I sat there, and I figured about 15 minutes. I turned on the radio, listened to some news and stuff. And that's when I realized it had been probably about half an hour. So I started to get concerned. It started to get dark. And I turned on spotlight, and I shined it up the trail off my cruiser, thinking, maybe he's delayed. Something's held him up. So I wanted to make sure and illuminate the trail for him. And then it got dark. And so I turned on my overhead lights, the blue and red flashing lights. And I said, well, this way, if he's, all he's got to do is come downhill, but he may wind up on the road, a mile away from me or something. So I wanted to flash the lights to where he could see where I was. And I waited another half hour. Now it's pitch black out. So I was worried. I was worried about my new friend. I was worried what was going on. So I got out of the car, and I grabbed the thermos of coffee. I grabbed my flashlight. And I just at the last second reached back into that car and grabbed my Winchester .44 Magnum rifle. And I had a spare key, so I locked the car up, but I left it running with the lights flashing so that we could find our way back. And I took off up this trail. And I'd never been here before. And it was a lot steeper than I thought. I mean, I was pretty wore out in just about 10 minutes of walking up this thing. And you're basically on your balls of your feet and your toes, and you're reaching for it, and I'm using the butt of this rifle as a walking stick, and I'm grabbing trees to pull myself up. So I kind of had a new respect for these guys. But I get up, well past where I thought the two rangers should have met at the halfway point. And I realized that, it's dark enough. Maybe I should go back. This is when I began to smell smoke. And I realized that, okay, there's a fire. And this is what's delayed these guys. But just what really bothered me at this point was that having been in this situation before, everything that happened in the river came back to me, and I don't know why, except that I was in the woods and it was at night. I've been in the woods a million times since that incident, but it was like someone took an ice cube and ran right down my back. Everything that I had buried in the pit of my stomach came back, because my skin began to crawl, and I realized something is not right. And it's not just the fire. Something's not right in the woods, and the thing that's not right is me. I'm out of place. And I distinctly had the feeling that I'd been watched, that something was wrong, and this is why I didn't turn around and go back to my car and call in the fire. And I moved forward at this point, and I started yelling out my buddy's name, Dobbs, Dobbs. And I got concerned for him, and I got on up the trail, and I got to an area where there was a clearing. Now, at this point, I'm almost up to the fire tower, because I'm almost up to the ridge. I certainly should have seen these guys, and at this point, the smell of smoke is heavy. There's an orange glow in the sky. We had a little moon. The moon had finally come out, and I didn't just have to use my flashlight to see, but I could see that orange glow in the sky, and I knew we had a forest fire. And as I moved up on the ground in front of me, something caught my eye, and I bent down, and it was Dobbs's hat. It was a ranger hat, and had a little pin on the front that, had reflected, and I'd seen it. And I got very concerned at this point, and I yelled his name as loud as I could. I just yelled Dobbs as loud as I could and screamed it over and over. And very close to me, I hear a voice that says, "Shut up, it'll hear you." And that scared the fire out of me, because the voice was, 10 feet away from me. And, I turned around and I looked, and I took my flashlight and I'm shining it around, and I finally saw him, and he had his back up against a rock, and due to the steepness of the trail, this rock, he could kind of lean on it and stay on his feet. And there were some scrub cedars, and he was kind of crouched, leaning backwards on this rock. And I just looked at him, and he said, "Turn that light off. Get over here. It'll hear you." And so I did what he said, and I was walking over to him, and that's when it hit me. "But what do you mean, it will hear us? What are you talking about?" And we got over there, and he just pointed, and he had his gun in his hand. And so, I raised my carbine, and I'm looking around, and he side of the clearing, we were just inside the woods. To the far side was maybe 35 yards. Not a long distance. I had shot that distance with a handgun easily. And, the smell of smoke was heavy in the air. The orange glow from just over the ridge. I knew if you'd walked over top of that ridge, you'd been able to see the fire. And there was just enough moon to where when we looked across that clearing and standing right at the edge of the clearing, we saw it. And it was tall. It dark. It was more backlit than front lit, so I really didn't get a lot of facial features or anything like that, except that I could see that it was tall. Its arms extended pretty low, like down almost to its knees, if not past its knees. And it apparently was moving diagonally, which would be the way the slope would go. But it had seen and heard me, and so it turned at the waist, and it was standing there frozen, just like we were. And Dobbs was pointing his gun in its general direction. I instinctively pointed my gun at it, and this thing stood there and stared at us, and I could see it had very large eyes, like a horse's eyes. And there was just enough light to where I got a little reflection off its eyes. And other than that, I didn't get any impression from it, except there was just no sound in the woods. You'd have thought all kinds of animals had been running and all kinds of stuff. That happened later. Right then, we were just frozen. And it was staring at us. And I knew by the way that the light was that it could see us plainly, and we were staring at it. And this was not a 1-second encounter. This was 30, 45 seconds of staring at this thing. And then it just crouched. and it crouched all the way down to the ground, and it's almost like its elbows was on the ground and its arms were extended out, and that's how long its arms were. And it just crouched, but the entire time it never took its eyes off of us. And when it moved, I saw Dobbs react with his gun, and I thought he was going to shoot him. And the first thing that came to mind was my Uncle Bill scaring the bear, you know. And I just pushed his arm down. Don't shoot it. It's not that I don't think we would have killed it. It just something told me don't shoot it. And we watched it, and it sniffed at the ground, and it used its arms to rake up some grass and sniff. And just as abruptly, it stood up, and it walked backwards into the woods. And by backwards, I'm talking about it took a step, a very deliberate, and then another deliberate step, and then another deliberate step, until it was far enough into the woods to where we really couldn't see it. And I'm sorry, bears don't do that. Immediately we heard it moving, and we could hear the trees and the brush, because again, once you're off the trail, this is pretty thickly brushed areas. There's a lot of, thorns and thickets and wait-a-minute vines. And this thing was crashing through that, and it was circling that oval clearance. It didn't take off in another direction. It didn't run downhill away from the fire. It was circling that clearing like it was going to try to come up on us. So I grabbed Dobbs. Dobbs nodded. He snapped out of, stared at this thing. And we started doing the same thing. We started circling in the opposite direction, headed uphill as it circled downhill. This one did not, I kept waiting on it to go, hey, or something, or why, or something, but it never made a noise. And so once we got up closer back to the trail on the top side of the clearing, we took off for the fire tower. This is when I talked to Dobbs. I said, are you okay? He goes, yeah. And I said, what happened? And he, on his way down, when he caught up with the other ranger, they smelled the fire, and they turned around, they went back up to the tower, and the other ranger began to scout the fire. And Dobbs said, well, I'm going to go down, get with the deputy. We'll call this in, because his radio wasn't working or something. And that's when he ran into this thing. And he said, it was a little more daylight then, but he said as he was walking down, just as he saw it cross the trail, this thing turned and saw him, and they stared at each other on the trail. Now, this is hearsay because I'm telling you what Dobbs told me. And Dobbs just looked at it, and this thing yelled at him, and he turned and ran off the trail. He said the creature just chased him like it was charging him, but stopped about 15 feet away from him and then just yelled. And during this time, Dobbs had dropped his backpack, dropped his walking stick, and he was fumbling for his gun. He said, before I got my gun out, this thing just kind of shook its head, turned around and walked off, but it grabbed his bag and just cocked back and threw it as far as it could as it walked off. And so when that happened, Dobbs headed across the clearing, and when he got to the other side, he saw it again on the north side of the clearing, and that's when he stopped and crouched because he thought, I don't want this thing trailing me through the deep woods. At least in the clearing, I can see it. He must have been there several minutes until I came across him. Well, that night, after he gave me the Cliff's Notes, like basically what I told you as we got to the fire tower, but the other ranger had notified other rangers. They'd notified, volunteer fire department, the rural fire department, and we had people coming up the trail. We had animals running. We had, you could see deer bolting across the clearing. Fortunately, the fire was not as, it was not a great fire, but we did get the range. And within a day or so, they had that fire under control. But we had 15 or 20 up there within half an hour of this. So the fire took possession of what we were thinking. And once there were plenty of people around, I kind of looked at Dobbs and saluted, and I'll talk to you later, basically. I went back down. I got my cruiser. It was almost out of gas. I had to go down and get gas. So the fire was the news for the next couple of days, and I didn't see Dobbs. A few days later, I got a hold of him because I knew where he lived, and it was raining by this point, which always helps whenever you have, a drought situation and fires. So we agreed to meet up for a cup of coffee, and he basically expounded on what, I had just told you. And It's been, 30 some odd years, but I do remember that he said it was big. It was built like a basketball player is what he said. It was like 7 foot tall, but not chunky, not fat. Bigger in the shoulders than it was at the hips. Long armed, black furred. And he just described the face as being, just an animal's face. But the thing yelled at him so loud that he wasn't sitting there writing down a description. I asked him, I kind of mimicked the sound of it, and he goes, yeah, it's kind of it. So we never really agreed. I never figured out if it was making the same kind of sounds that I'd heard 12, 13 years before. So, I'm not trying to say it was the same animal. I don't know what it was. But, both of us agreed as we sat there one night and had cigarettes and coffee, it was no damn bear. I've hunted all over the United States. I've been to Idaho. I've hunted up in Wyoming. I've hunted here in Missouri. I've hunted in Texas. I've seen all kinds of animals, and I continue to hunt and fish all over western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee. It's not a bear. I've seen many bears.
Introduce. Well, there you have it, folks. That was awesome. That was the Germer Files for tonight. Special thanks to Wes Germer and Sasquatch Chronicles for letting us showcase that here on the show. That is outstanding. Amazing videos. He's done a fantastic job on those, and I appreciate the opportunity to bring them to you guys. If you want to see more of those, head over to the Sasquatch Chronicles YouTube page, and you can check out a whole series of these, but we're going to continue to showcase them on the portal as well. They're just really well done, and those witnesses are just amazing. This is giving me chills. I'm always blown away by it. I've been a listener of Sasquatch Chronicles forever, of course, and Wes stopped in the chat here too, so that was really cool that he was here while we showcased it, or is still here. I don't know, he might still be, but I just love these, and he's done a hell of a job putting them into a nice short video format. So hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I did. I'm looking forward to the next one, and that may be tomorrow night. I don't know. We'll see. We may be showcasing another one tomorrow night. But they're just really well done. Really, really well done. Let me see. What am I looking for here? I am looking for, oh yeah. Now I remember what I'm doing. I don't always remember, but this I remember. Okay, folks. So that was the Germer Files. And now we're going to move into the Trailcam Terrors. So I hope you all are ready. Let's take a look at what's going on in the world of trail cams. All right, folks, welcome to the Trailcam Terrors. This is a segment of the show where we showcase either a photo evidence or video evidence of what are allegedly paranormal occurrences or phenomena. And tonight is a trail cam shot that I find really pretty compelling. I think that it could very well be the real thing. I don't know the backstory on it. I don't know where it comes out of. There's very little. I've seen it a couple times, only 2 times on the web as I'm perusing through. And the last time that I saw it was on Sasquatch Chronicles fans page. So actually, Wes, either directly or indirectly, is providing a lot of content for tonight's show. But this one I pulled from the Sasquatch Chronicles fans page on Facebook, and I had seen this prior to that. Oh, thank you, 7 Pro. She said, a real nice treat. Thanks, Brent. Oh, don't thank me. Thank Wes. It's all because he lets us do it. But I'd only seen this one other time in private prior to this. And I'm really pretty impressed by this trail cam image. And without further ado, let's put it up on screen and let you guys check it out. And there it is. Now, I don't know about you guys, but it really looks like an incredibly big being. It looks enormous. I don't know what kind of tree that is, and that's in front of it towards the trail cam, but you can see that oftentimes we hear Sasquatch always avoid trail cams. They just know they're there and stuff. But I think it is possible, and I've heard legendarily that there's a lot of trail cam pictures out there, but most people are not willing to enter the fray. They're not willing to put them out there and be subjected to the absolute abuse that they have to endure from everybody that knows so much more than anybody else. And we all have seen those discussions. I know I'm not bringing anything new to the table here, but it is also causing people to withhold their evidence, because who wants to deal with a bunch of garbage just for trying to put something out there like, hey, I caught this. Well, this is one of those images that, could very well be the real thing. And if you look at it, that's a hell of a lunging stride. For one, the shoulders look absolutely massive, and it is leaning away as it's in stride, but it doesn't look like there's much of a neck. I think it's pretty interesting, and the arm length does look pretty interesting. Now, the shoulders are hunched over, and it's hard to tell exactly what kind of arm length we're looking at, but the arm also looks like it's the upper arm looks like it's starting at the shoulder and kind of coming towards the camera and then dangling down from there, and still has enough length to be beyond the buttocks, basically on the figure. This is a really, really thick image. And so I don't know, this one is, it's pretty intense. I think it could be. Now, do Bigfoot usually see trail cams? I think they probably do. I think they're probably really acutely aware of their surroundings, what's normally there and what's not normally there. I think they pick up on that stuff really well. Like they have this almost this OCD. Like they can pick up things that aren't supposed to be there in a heartbeat. But if you look at the trajectory of the motion of this thing and how the cam captured it, is it possible that it was off the path enough that it didn't notice and just walks right by? It's a daytime shot too, which also rules out, well, they can see the infrared and they can see these trail cams firing and know where they are because they can see infrared, and maybe they can. I don't have a real solid idea about that. I think it stands to reason, but at any rate, is it possible that this is an actual capture? And I think it is. I think I see a portal around the tree. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not really good at seeing portals, so I can't substantiate that, but thank you for sharing that, Ruthie. I think that this could very well be an actual capture of a Sasquatch. I can't obviously say that for sure, but it really has a lot of the hallmarks that I would look for, in validating that or invalidating that. And granted, all we can do is look at an image with absolutely no backstory, no background on it. I don't know if anybody out there knows the background on this. Please let me know. And if it's been recognized as either legitimate or hoaxy, I don't know. But what I'm seeing, all I can do is judge it by this one still image and the proportions that we're witnessing. I just think it might really be legitimate. So, believe it or not, the object of the show is never to make people believe anything. I just like putting stuff out on the table and say, hey guys, look at this. What do you think? And so let me know what you think in the comments or in the chat or whatever, because I think it could very well be the real thing. Yeah. I appreciate that, Ruthie. I appreciate that a bunch. I wish I could see those kind of things. I can't. But I think it's an incredible shot. I think it's really pretty powerful. So if you have an opinion of it, or if you know any more about this image, I'd love to know if anybody knows where it came from or anything. And it might be one of those images that, people didn't want released and they released it to a select people, and those people took it upon themselves to release it. So maybe that's why there's not much backstory on it. But at any rate, I think it could be a solid possibility. So let me know what you guys think. That much about. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know much about this either, but I just think the proportions really look pretty convincing. Here's the thing that really sticks out to me is if you look at that shoulder back, the shoulder/back arc, there's it forms kind of almost a half circle to the other side. And the arm juts out right from the very edge of that. So it's not like it's not like it was over padded and actually the arms are being disguised in there. It does look like they belong to this frame. It's not being camouflaged by heavy padding and lots of fur. Now, what I also find interesting is that a lot of people that do witness the Sasquatch, they talk about how the hair, oftentimes people think it's this thick, hairy coat, but many eyewitnesses talk about how they can see the skin through it. It's like there's heavily haired areas and there's sparsely hairy areas. And, certainly the chest and the thorax, the back tends to sound like it's a lighter coating of the hair, more so than like the forearms down to the hands. The legs, I think, are generally pretty hairy. So it does match that. It almost looks like this hair is, really light and possibly even matted a bit. And so somebody had made a comment, it looks like a mangy Bigfoot, but I think it could be just the fact that it's, bunched up or whatever from whatever it's doing, but it's probably not a real thick coat of hair anyway. So tell me what you think. If you got an opinion about it, I like this photo a lot. I think it has some strong possibility, but at any rate, it definitely doesn't look digitally fake. No, I agree, Android. I don't see any resolution difference. Do you agree? Yes, I do. I mean, it really looks like it was captured in frame. There's no obvious hoaxing going on, at least with the exposure or with a double exposure or with any kind of photoshopping. I mean, it looks like it belongs. It looks like it's at the exact same resolution and pixelation as the rest of the background and stuff. So I think it belongs. I think this was actually a captured image. I just can't be 100% sure that it's legitimate, but I think it really does have enough of the hallmarks and legitimate traits to be at least worth a deeper look. So that's my 2 cents on it. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and hope you let me know what your opinion is of it. I'm looking in the hair is varied in color, not uniform like a costume would be. Yeah, exactly. A lot of times people talk about that as well, and you can see on the image here. And I think that's what you're talking about, Rachel, but you do see some reds, you do see some darker browns and even blacks on the legs. So there does seem to be like a coat variation in here. I don't want to say a coat because it's not fur, but it is hair. I suspect Sasquatch have hair, not a fur coat, is what I'm trying to say. And I think the color variations in this really do lend validity to that, because I think if somebody's going to hoax it, I don't know if they'd put all that effort into it. And I think they would probably try to make it a full coat of hair, because that's what I think most people believe, is that this creature is just this big moppy, bulky thing. And most witnesses say that they can see the skin through the coat in many places, and it looks really thin on like the chest and stuff. The head, of course, is usually pretty heavy, and the forearms to the hands, not covering the hands, but up to the hands, is generally really long and drapey, is many descriptions that I've heard. So tell me what you think. I think it's got a lot of strong indicators that it could be legit. So that's tonight's Trailcam Terrors, folks. Hope you enjoyed that. And let me re-cue the haul. All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. We've had a lot of extra fun tonight with the Germer Files and with the Trailcam Terrors. So I hope you've all enjoyed this journey through the Paranormal Portal into our night terrors. And remember, we'll be back for 2 hours tomorrow night. Android says, that's what Lon Strickler said about his sighting near my house in Maryland. It didn't have much hair. That's right. And we actually covered that on the show. I remember that. And I think it was on the BFRO that we found that report from Lon Strickler. And yeah, I remember. I thought he said it in the report, but maybe he didn't. But I think I've heard him. Thanks, Brent, for playing my stuff. Thank you for making it available to us, brother. I mean, hell, you're making my job awesome. I just got to show up and roll the film. So thank you, brother. It was beautiful stuff, by the way, too. You've done an amazing job with those videos, and it's really powerful with those visuals as well. So, all right, guys, I think that's about all we got for tonight. So I hope you've enjoyed the journey. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Please continue to spread the word about the Paranormal Portal. We want it to grow. We want to bring more and more people to the table, so you can certainly help doing that. Just keep posting these videos out on your social media if you wouldn't mind. That would be the biggest way you can help, but at least word of mouth. Let people know that you know of this show if you're a fan of the show. If you don't like the show, never mind. But if you like the show, please let people know. It would mean a lot to us. We're getting closer to the 9,000 subs, which means we're close to the 10,000 subs. As we discussed last night, when we hit 10,000 subs, we're going to have an epic extravaganza show, and can't wait to do it. We're going to do some giveaways and a lot of fun stuff, and hopefully have cameo appearances by people like Wes Germer. I'm just saying. I serve it up fresh here, folks. I've never even mentioned that to Wes before, but we'll see. We'll see if he's game. So anyway. But that's all I got for you tonight. Love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the laughter in every day. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. Sorry. I just read Wes's comments. It would be an honor. Well, thank you, brother. Yeah, it'd be an honor to have you on. All right, man. That's it. You guys have a great night. Love y'all. And I'll be back tomorrow night with the 2-hour show. Don's going to be coming in on Saturday. I think it's he said Saturday. So tomorrow night, I'll see what's going to be on the menu, but we'll sort that out. But either way, there will be a 2-hour show tomorrow night. Probably have some more Germer files tomorrow. Maybe we'll do a Germer file marathon for 2 hours. What do you guys think? Anyway, I'm just throwing it out there. All right, guys, good night. Take care, and we'll see you later. And remember, sweet dreams.